The rain-slicked cobblestones of Cadiz' old quarter gleamed under the street lamps like shattered glass, mirroring the fracture in Nora's heart as she stormed out of El Faro de Plata, the Michelin-starred darling of western Spain's culinary scene. "You're not what we're looking for," the head chef had sneered, his words laced with the kind of casual venom that pretended not to sting. But Nora knew better. It was her skin, her unapologetic love for women, the way she carried both like badges of honor that had sealed her fate. In that instant, as thunder cracked overhead, she vowed silently to the storm gods, this rejection wouldn't break her, it would forge her into something unbreakable. Nora's boots splashed through puddles that swallowed her footsteps, her breath coming in sharp, ragged bursts that had nothing to do with the chill wind whipping off the Atlantic. She was 32, a chef who'd clawed her way from Bronx kitchens to stages across Europe, blending soul food roots with Iberian flair in dishes that whispered stories of migration and resilience. But tonight, in this sun-baked corner of Spain where she'd come chasing dreams of a sous chef gig, those stories had been dismissed with a clipboard and a clipboard-thin excuse. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, a text from her sister back home. "You got this, nor turn it into fuel." Fuel. Yeah, she'd burn the whole damn place down with it, metaphorically speaking. She ducked into a narrow alley off Calle Ancha, the kind lined with tapas bars where locals nursed glasses of sherry and swapped tales of shipwrecks and lost loves. The first bar she tried was too crowded, spilling laughter and the sizzle of gambas al ajillo onto the sidewalk. The second, a dimly lit spot called La Luna Rota, the broken moon, felt like a sigh of relief. Nora pushed through the beaded curtain, shaking rain from her coat, and claimed a stool at the scarred wooden bar. The bartender, a grizzled man with a mustache like a broom and eyes that had seen too many sunsets, slid her a copita without asking. "Looks like you need this more than sleep," he grunted in accented English, his Spanish lilt softening the edges. Nora downed the sherry in one go, the nutty warmth spreading like a balm against the raw ache in her chest. "Rejected," she muttered, more to herself than him. "For being me." The words hung there, heavy as the storm clouds outside, but before the bartender could muster a reply, a voice cut through the haze from the corner booth, soft, melodic, laced with a warmth that felt like home. "Rejected by fools, you mean. El Faro's loss is the world's gain." Nora turned, her gaze locking onto the woman who leaned against the booth's edge, a sketchpad balanced on her knee. She was maybe 29, with waves of dark hair that caught the lamplight like polished obsidian, falling loose over one shoulder. Her skin glowed with the easy tan of someone who spent days under the Andalusian sun, and her hazel eyes, flecked with gold, held a quiet fire that mirrored Nora's own. She wore a faded linen shirt rolled to her elbows, paint-splattered jeans, and a silver necklace that dangled a tiny crescent moon, as if she'd wandered straight out of one of the alley's murals. Nova. That was her name, Nora learned over the next sherry, and then another, courtesy of the bartender who sensed a spark worth fanning. Nova was an artist, a muralist who traded the chaos of Barcelona for Cadiz's salty breezes 2 years back, painting vibrant frescoes on crumbling walls that told tales of forgotten sailors and resilient spirits. "I came here to escape my own rejection," she confessed, her fingers tracing idle patterns on the sketchpad, a half-formed outline of a woman wielding a chef's knife like Excalibur. "Gallery in Madrid said my work was too queer, too bold. So I paint where the walls don't judge." They talked until the bar emptied, the rain easing into a misty drizzle that blurred the world beyond the windows. Nora found herself spilling it all, the audition at El Faro, the head chef's thinly veiled barbs about her urban influences, clashing with their refined palate, the way he'd eyed the photo of her and her ex-girlfriend peeking from her wallet like it was contraband. Nova listened without interruption, her nods slow and deliberate, as if absorbing each word into the canvas of her soul. When Nora finished, voice cracking on the edge of tears she refused to shed, Nova reached across the table and covered her hand with her own, warm, calloused from brushes and palettes, steady as the tide. "You're not broken, Nora. You're a storm they weren't ready for." Those words lodged in Nora's chest like a promise, and when Nova suggested they walk, just to clear the air, she said, Nora didn't hesitate. The streets of Cadiz unfolded around them like a labyrinth of secrets, whitewashed walls splashed with bougainvillea, the distant crash of waves against the city walls, the faint strum of a guitar from an open window. They wandered to the edge of the Baluarte de la Candelaria, where the fortress met the sea, and sat on the damp stone, legs dangling over the drop. The Atlantic stretched out black and endless, swallowing the horizon. Nova pulled a small tin from her pocket, charcoal sticks and a scrap of paper, and began sketching Nora's profile against the night sky, her strokes quick and sure. "Tell me about your food," she murmured, not looking up. "What would you serve to shatter a place like El Faro?" Nora laughed, the sound surprising her, and launched into it. Collard greens braised in sherry vinegar, paella infused with smoked brisket from her grandmother's recipes, empanadas stuffed with plantains and chorizo that danced the line between Harlem and Havana. Nova's eyes lit up with each description, her pencil flying faster, capturing the curve of Nora's jaw, the spark in her gaze. By dawn, as the first light painted the sea in hues of rose and gold, Nora realized she hadn't thought of the rejection in hours. Nova folded the sketch and pressed it into her hand, a rough but vivid portrait of Nora as a queen reclaiming her throne, knife in hand, crown of flames. "Keep this," she said, her voice barely above the waves. "And come find me tomorrow. We'll plot your empire." Nora nodded, the paper crinkling in her fist like a map to something new. As she walked back to her rented flat above a fishmonger's, the city awakening around her with the cry of gulls and the clatter of market carts, she felt the stirrings of possibility, a quiet rebellion blooming in the salt-kissed air. But empires aren't built on sketches alone. The next week blurred into a rhythm of tentative steps, mornings in Nova's sun-drenched studio, a converted warehouse near the Mercado Central, where Nora chopped vegetables while Nova daubed color onto canvases 10 feet tall. Afternoons were for scouting, hidden markets where Nora haggled for heirloom tomatoes and wild sea urchins, her American accent drawing curious smiles from vendors who'd never left Andalusia. Evenings, they cooked together in Nora's tiny kitchen, the air thick with cumin and saffron, laughter spilling out the window to mingle with the calls of street vendors hawking churros. Nova was a revelation, not just in her art, which layered queer icons into Spanish folklore with bold strokes of crimson and indigo, but in the way she saw Nora. No pity for the rejection, no wide-eyed awe at her credentials, just a steady gaze that stripped away the armor Nora had worn since her first kitchen boss in New York had called her too aggressive for daring to correct a recipe. One night, as they shared a bottle of manzanilla on the studio floor amid paint rags and half-eaten plates of gazpacho laced with cornbread croutons, Nova set her glass down and leaned in. "I've been rejected too many times to count," she said, her thumb brushing Nora's knuckles. "But you're the kind of beautiful that makes the world rethink its ugliness." Their first kiss happened then, slow and inevitable as the tide pulling at the shore, Nova's lips soft against Nora's, tasting of salt and sweetness, her hand cupping Nora's cheek with a tenderness that ached. It wasn't fireworks or frenzy, it was a homecoming, two souls recognizing the shape of the other's scars. They pulled apart only when the studio's single bulb flickered, casting shadows that danced like conspirators. "This," Nora whispered, forehead against Nova's, "this is worth fighting for." Word of Nora's pop-up dinners spread like wildfire through Cadiz expat circles, whispered recommendations from British retirees and Dutch artists who'd tasted her fusion bites at La Luna Rota. Her first event, in a borrowed courtyard off Plaza de los Flores, drew 20 souls under strings of fairy lights, plates of smoked oyster croquetas passed hand to hand as Nora manned the grill, sweat beading on her brow, Nova sketching the scene from a shadowed corner. The reviews trickled in on Instagram and local food blogs, a Black American chef reimagining Andalusian soul, revolutionary. El Faro's shadow loomed, though. Nora caught their sommelier lurking at the edge of the crowd one night, notepad in hand, his expression a mask of feigned disinterest. Nova encouraged her to lean in, to turn the pain into pitch. "Write the story," she'd say, curled against Nora on the narrow bed in her flat, the sea breeze fluttering the curtains. "Let them see the woman they tried to erase." So Nora did, a raw essay for a Barcelona food zine, detailing the audition, the microaggressions disguised as critique, the way her queerness was the unspoken asterisk on her resume. It went viral in Spain's culinary underbelly, shared by queer foodies and ally chefs, the comments a chorus of "See, Hermana, and you're a force." But success bred whispers, and whispers bred doubt. Nova's phone started buzzing with gallery offers, a big one from Madrid, the same vipers who'd once scorned her. "It's a chance," she told Nora one evening, pacing the studio as rain lashed the windows again. "To get my work seen, to shove it in their faces." Nora nodded, masking the twinge in her gut, pride for Nova, laced with the fear of another loss. "Go," she said, pulling her close. "Shatter them. Just come back." Nova did go, for a week of meetings and installations, leaving Nora to helm a sold-out dinner alone. The night was magic, 80 covers, laughter echoing off the stone arches, Nora's dishes a symphony of bold flavors that left diners speechless. But as the last plates cleared, her phone lit up with a message from an unknown number, a screenshot of Nova at the Madrid gallery opening, arm-linked with the curator who'd rejected her years ago, captions gushing about her evolved style. Playing the game. Nora's thumb hovered, heart pounding. No, it was just networking. Still, the seed planted. The betrayal came not in thunder, but in the quiet drip of revelations. 2 days after Nova's return, flushed with tales of sold pieces and industry nods, Nora overheard a call in the studio, Nova's voice low, urgent. "Yes, I told her about the audition. It humanizes the story, makes her the underdog. El Faro's PR team loves the angle, redemption arc, you know. Black chef rises above prejudice." Nora froze in the doorway, the canvas bag of fresh figs slipping from her fingers to thud on the floor. Nova spun, face paling. "Nora, wait, it's not." But it was. The gallery curator was El Faro's silent investor, pulling strings for a collaborative feature in a glossy mag, Nora's comeback, framed as forgiveness, her pain polished into their redemption. Nova had leaked the essay, twisted it into fodder for the very machine that had crushed her. "I thought it would help you," Nova stammered, tears streaking her cheeks. "Get you in the door, make them see your talent." Nora's laugh was bitter, hollow. "Talent? Or pity? You sold my hurt for your spotlight." The fight that followed was a tempest, words hurled like lightning, accusations cracking the air. Nora accused Nova of using her story as a prop, of betraying the raw trust they'd built plate by plate, kiss by kiss. Nova fired back with desperation, "I'm trying to build something for us. This city chews up dreamers, I did it so we could have more than scraps." But the damage was done, the sketch from that first night crumpled in Nora's fist as she stormed out, the door slamming like a guillotine. Days blurred into a haze of solitude. Nora threw herself into her work, expanding the pop-ups into a ghost kitchen, deliveries of her signature rebel paella zipping across Cadiz on e-bikes, each bowl a quiet act of defiance. The essay's fallout brought offers, a residency in Seville, whispers from American scouts, but none filled the void Nova had left. She avoided La Luna Rota, the fortress walls, every corner haunted by hazel eyes and charcoal promises. Friends, the bartender, a queer bookseller named Mateo, urged her to confront it, but Nora buried deeper, her heart a locked larder. The climax brewed on the eve of El Faro's annual gala, a black-tie spectacle broadcast live from their cliffside terrace, where chefs from across Europe converged to toast the stars. Nora had been invited, a gesture of goodwill, the email read, laced with condescension. She almost deleted it, but Mateo's words echoed, "Shatter them, not silently." So she went, not in apology, but in armor, a tailored jumpsuit of midnight blue silk, her curls crowned with gold cuffs, Nova's old sketch tucked in her pocket like a talisman. The terrace glittered under chandeliers strung like constellations, the sea a dark symphony below. Nora moved through the crowd like a shadow, accepting nods from allies, ignoring the head chef's outstretched hand. Then she saw her, Nova, radiant in emerald velvet, laughing with the investor at a high-top table. Their eyes met across the throng, and time fractured, hurt, longing, fury swirling in that gaze. Nova broke away, weaving toward her, but Nora held up a hand. "Not tonight," she said, voice steel. Tonight's for the reckoning. She'd planned it meticulously, a pop-up within the gala, commandeered a side station with the sommelier's unwitting help. As dessert service began, Nora unveiled her finale, shattered pride torte, layers of dark chocolate ganache spiked with smoked paprika, candied figs symbolizing burst illusions, topped with a mirror of edible silver that cracked under the fork, revealing a filling of salted caramel laced with ghost pepper heat. Each plate bore a card, from rejection to revolution. Taste the truth. She served it to the influencers, the critics, the power players, her smile ablaze. The head chef approached mid-service, face thunderous. This is audacious, insulting, even. Nora met his eyes, unflinching. Audacious. Try survival. You rejected me for my skin, my love. Now eat it. He took a bite, the heat blooming behind his eyes, and for a split second, vulnerability cracked his facade, a man tasting not just spice, but consequence. The room buzzed as photos flashed, tags exploding, shattered pride, Nora rises. By night's end, El Faro's feed was flooded with reposts, their pristine image fracturing like the torte's mirror. Nova found her on the terrace's edge, the gala's hum fading behind them. I was wrong, she said, voice breaking. I thought I was protecting us, but I was scared, of losing you to the fight, of not being enough. Tears traced Nora's cheeks, the wind whipping them away. You were enough. But trust. That's the ingredient we can't fake. They stood there, inches apart, the sea roaring approval or warning. Nova reached for her hand, and this time, Nora didn't pull away, not fully. Can we rebuild? Nova whispered. Plate by plate. Nora looked out at the waves, the city lights twinkling like distant stars. The comeback had shattered more than pride, it had cracked open her own walls, letting light into the scars. Forgiveness wasn't erasure, it was choosing to layer new flavors over the old burn. Maybe, she said finally, squeezing Nova's fingers. But this time, we cooked together. No secrets. In the weeks that followed, Nora's empire took root, a brick-and-mortar spot in a restored hacienda overlooking the bay, Rebel's Hearth, where walls bloomed with Nova's murals, black and brown women wielding spoons like scepters, lovers entwined in vines of saffron and smoke. The menu evolved, a testament to fusion and fortitude, dishes that honored the rejected, celebrated the resilient. El Faro dimmed in the reviews, their stars flickering as diners flocked to Nora's fire. One crisp autumn evening, as the sun dipped into the Atlantic, Nora and Nova stood on their rooftop terrace, a simple meal between them, sherry-braised greens, paella under the stars. Nova raised her glass, eyes shining. To us, the storm and the canvas. Nora clinked hers, the sound clear as a vow. To rebuilding. Humanely. Below, Cadiz pulsed with life, a city of second chances, where pain could forge beauty, and love, once betrayed, could rise unbroken. Their hands intertwined, fingers tracing the lines of shared battles, and in that moment, Nora knew, the greatest comeback wasn't shattering pride, but mending hearts. The sea whispered agreement, eternal and unyielding, as the two women leaned into the horizon, ready for whatever flavors the future held.